Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tereza Yerimyan. I'm the Government Affairs Director of the Armenian National Committee of America. And joining me today is Dickran Khodanian, a former ANCA Western Region staffer who currently is coming to us from Artsakh. He's going to share his firsthand view of the desperate needs that the people of Artsakh are facing today. As everyone may have heard, the ANCA has been pursuing a $250 million aid agenda for Artsakh. Now, that $250 million agenda includes a breakdown which encompasses refugee relief in the amount of $100 million. That is a base necessity that we think it will assist in the developing situation in Artsakh with the refugee population increasing in Hayastan, and the devastation we're seeing in Artsakh as those who've been displaced from the surrounding areas are filling into Stepanakert. In line with that, we are also noting that it's important to have $20 million of aid go to 4 specific buckets: housing, food security, water and sanitation. We saw during the war, water lines being bombed, and clean water not making it to homes. And in addition to that, rehabilitation. As POWs and soldiers are coming home, the rehabilitation needs are growing, and their journeys to a full recovery are going to be long ones. And we need to ensure that they are taken care of in every way possible. And in addition to these 4 buckets, we are also noting the need to address the COVID-19 pandemic. $25 million is the amount that we have noted would help in assisting both Armenia and Artsakh fight the pandemic. We've seen the exponential increase in cases as the war has raged through the country. And of course, something that we have been working on tirelessly for decades, along with the Halo Trust, demining, and $25 million towards demining assistance to ensure that individuals safely live in Artsakh, and that they safely are able to farm, that they're safely able to go to school without the threat of unexploded ordnances being triggered. This winter is particularly a very cold one that was not only unexpected, but one that comes at a time where the most tragedy has hit the country. Now, as the people of Artsakh are facing multiple humanitarian crises, the climate has also obviously caused further damage and further grievances. Dickran, you're on the ground. You know these issues better than any of us. Tell us the overall situation in Artsakh and fill us in on some of the things that you've been doing as well.
First of all, thank you, Tereza and ANCA, for definitely arranging this, because I feel like more than anything right now, it's very important to just be informed about what's going on in order to be best able to address the current needs of the people of Artsakh, especially in the middle of a pandemic following a devastating war that recently took place. Honestly, I've had a pretty tough day just from today. This is my 3rd trip since the war ended on November 9th to Artsakh, where I've been able to visit the different regions. The first 2 visits specifically were regions including Karvajar and Kashatal, which we no longer have access to and are now part of Azerbaijan per the deal. And today, my 3rd time, which I'm still here for a few days, I was able to visit Marduni, because I hadn't had a chance to see the region of Marduni following the war. So it was definitely a heavy experience, because first, in the first 2 visits, I was able to witness all the churches, monasteries, historic sites, and Armenian cemeteries that we lost and that are currently under Azerbaijan's control. But today I was more able to see, so far in this trip, I've more been able to see Stepanakert and Marduni, which are still currently part of Artsakh, and under Armenian control, but did experience heavy damage due to heavy artillery. There's a lot of displaced people. There's a lot of people living in homes that are damaged. And there's generally a need for so many essential resources and nutritional needs that these people are desperately searching for and require assistance for. So I feel like and with winter approaching, it's making it even worse with the COVID situation, not necessarily lightening up, especially in this part of the world. The situation has not been an easy one to address. And right now, there's multiple issues that the people who are either displaced in Armenia or figuring out a way to get back to Artsakh to see what's left of their homes and to see if they can make life normal in Artsakh are facing. But there's so many that we can continue to discuss that definitely require the assistance of the U.S.
Thank you, Dickran. And as we mentioned in the very beginning, the ANCA has called for $250 million in U.S. emergency aid to help address this vast humanitarian aid crisis that you're talking about, all caused by Azerbaijani aggression, all caused by the assistance of Turkey in Azerbaijan's vile attack against Armenia and Artsakh. The first element of that package is $100 million for immediate assistance for refugees. So what are the most pressing problems, the day-to-day? You mentioned that you're in Stepanakert and Martuni. What are families, what assistance is there for families who have been forced from their homes? What are you seeing?
So first off, there's a significant number of refugees, displaced people who have already left and did leave during the war and following the war to find new residency in Armenia. Some are from areas like Hadrut, which we no longer have. So these people are in search of new homes. There's also people from Hadrut that are also in Stepanakert and the surrounding areas to try to create new homes and to live in a new area. So the day-to-day stuff, honestly, is finding long-term housing, because there's a lot of individuals that are staying in temporary housing, where they're staying with multiple families in one home, or they're staying in a hotel, or they're staying in a bed and breakfast type situation. These are not long-term solutions, and these people are desperately looking for places to stay. And a lot of people that initially left to Armenia are now returning also to Stepanakert and Marduni to see what's left of their homes, because a lot of them have been heavily damaged. So in addition to coming back and looking for a place to stay, you need to now repair this. And just today, when I went to Marduni, every other house has been damaged in one way or another, whether it's shrapnels, explosions, and whatnot. And it was very evident. It was very evident. And one of the homes that I visited, which was my friends, they told me that their roof completely was damaged from the war. And they were working on finishing it as we visited their home. They told us a missile went straight through. They were not home at the time because they had already left. They had already left during the war. But this is a reality that so many families are facing right now, because there's families that have completely lost their homes and villages. There's families that have their village but don't have their home because it was severely destroyed. And then there's people that are not willing to go back, given the safety issue, given Azerbaijan's xenophobic and Armenophobic rhetoric. They're just not willing to go back when they see that Shushi, for example, or neighboring parts, or very close on the other side of the line of contact, there's Azerbaijan troops there. And I understand the Russian peacekeepers are also present, but things have changed immensely, and these people definitely are making a note of it.
You're absolutely. I think the ANCA and then what you're mentioning are going hand in hand. You know, long-term housing is going to be a major challenge. You know, the ANCA was envisioning $20 million in U.S. funding to help shelter people today, and then to help them secure housing moving forward. You've described some of the challenges: missiles through roofs. What else are you seeing? And kind of combining these two, you know, the necessity for demining. I mean, have you noticed unexploded ordinances and the like while you've been in Stepanakert?
So specifically on the route, on the drive to Stepanakert last time, I definitely saw a smirch that was in the ground. It hadn't exploded, and it was just there. Today, on the way to Marduni, and in Marduni actually, there was multiple smirches just in the ground, unexploded, and near civilian settlements. For example, a Republic Square or like the main square of the town and the opera. This is where these explosives generally were, which gives you what exactly the Azerbaijani side was aiming at when they were launching this large scale offensive.
That's extremely disheartening, and it confirms with an Armenian American like yourself, Dickran, seeing these for yourself. We saw these in reports, we saw these in multiple journalism reports, and it's disheartening to hear it again. But for our viewers, again, this is the situation, this is the day-to-day that the children and the people, the peace-loving, freedom-loving people of Artsakh are facing. And we can't emphasize enough how important your activism here in the US is going to matter in making sure that these individuals get the aid, that the countries get the aid that they need in order to be able to reestablish and be able to live normally, and the new normal, whatever it may be in the region. Over the last 2 decades, demining has been an ongoing issue, and obviously it is exponentially grown. And so the ANCA's budgeting of $25 million is fairly justified in addressing just the emergency, immediate necessity on the ground, as Dickran was mentioning. Seeing unexploded ordnance and smirches in your backyard, in the city square, in Republic Square, which all the government officials, where normal life, in the evenings, families would take their strollers and walk around on a normal day otherwise. This is obvious of the level of destruction the Azerbaijani military and government were targeting, maximum destruction in civilian populated areas. Dickran, let's talk about the economic and just the livelihood of individuals in Artsakh. Artsakh is extremely agriculturally self-sufficient. Just last year when I was there and we had members of Congress there, fields of pomegranates, grape fields, the number of Artsakh wines are produced, many of which many of us enjoy, from Kataro to Aran to Bertashen. Exporting food to Armenia, these new endeavors that had emerged in Artsakh were part and parcel of the economic growth there. But today, much of that rich farmland is under Azerbaijani control. As a result, Artsakh faces serious food security issues and challenges. So how can the US help ensure that Artsakh has enough food to get through this winter, and then to reestablish their food security in the future?
So first off, Artsakh had been putting in a lot of effort to become agriculturally self-sufficient, especially for the last 2 decades. They had all this land, they had all these food and crops that they were growing in order to provide for their people and also to Armenia. Now, when you ask local farmers or different companies and so forth, because there's new developments taking place every day, half their land is now on the Azerbaijani side, and now their income and their way of providing food to their families and to the rest of the communities in Artsakh is gone. And especially during winter, it's become a recipe for disaster and a severe food shortage, because now the people of Artsakh need the simplest food. Like they need food because there's a shortage now, because they can't necessarily provide all of it or enough of it for their residents. So anything that's coming now from Armenia or anything that the US is willing to provide through aid is definitely needed right now in Artsakh, just for them to get through the winter, and then so they can have some more long-term support and assistance.
For everyone who's listening, I I want to maybe belabor this point. Imagine an entire day without being able to drink clean water. Imagine having the fear of getting their bacterial infection or any type of disease from water because it's not clean, it's not purified. Some of us go after, is it Dasani or is it Fiji that we're going to drink today? During the war and right now, many, and this goes hand in hand with agriculture and what Dickran is talking about, and the fact that there's a massive food shortage. Right this second, the main Artsakh water sources have been occupied by Azerbaijani troops. Artsakh is deprived of clean drinking water and a steady irrigation supply. So even for future farming, this is going to affect their ability to provide clean water for their crops. Again, Dickran, what can the US do and the international community to support the right for Artsakh citizens to water?
So I know, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the water in Artsakh came from regions like Kashatal and Karabajar, definitely. And these two areas are now under Azerbaijan's control, depriving the people of Artsakh of water. And also, how fair is it that Armenians in Artsakh have to go through Azerbaijan, if at all, to get to the water that they have been that they had already for the last 20, 30 years? This makes the situation even more devastating, because these are basic necessities that these people who are advocates of democracy and freedom, as you mentioned, rightfully deserve. And it's unfortunate that efforts of war and a dictatorship losing these essential resources through these ways. So it makes the work of your average Armenian American even more so important and essential to push for these type of aid efforts, whether it's financial, monetary, to support the people of Artsakh through these basic necessities, because it is something that could definitely happen.
Now, Dickran, let's move into just talking about the healthcare situation, the healthcare infrastructure. We saw that the Azerbaijani government specifically targeted hospitals, bombing them, destroying wards, destroying full infrastructures. What are Artsakh's immediate and long-term needs in this area, and how can America help?
Well, yeah, as I'm sure many people saw from pictures and videos, hospitals and the maternity ward of a hospital in Stepanakert were directly targeted by Azerbaijan during this war. These infrastructures that are needed in order to tend to the citizens of Artsakh are being destroyed. So just these basic hospitals, these institutions, in order to help the state recover, need support, for example, from the US in order to get back on their feet. And the US needs to have a direct role in helping these institutions get back and be restored to their with their full capacities in order to address all the needs of the people of Artsakh.
And in line with those needs, I mean, there's a COVID-19 pandemic, there's rehabilitation issues. Just very quickly, Dickran, can you talk about those two elements, what you're seeing taking place in terms of rehabilitation, if you've seen it, maybe some of the work of the Lady Cox Rehabilitation Center, and again, what more broadly is being done for the wounded soldier that the US, again, can help with?
So, given the number of the casualties, one might expect how many people have actually been affected and are wounded as a result of this war and need rehabilitation. And the Lady Cox Rehabilitation Center is one of the best and most inspiring institutions that exist in Artsakh. I'm fortunate enough to have visited this institution and met with so many of the great people that help run this institution. And in fact, I know there's a group here with specifically including Armenian Americans from Congressman Brad Sherman's district, who are physical therapists and are helping out the situation right now. But they're doing their part, and it's also up to the U.S. to step up and also have a direct role in this aid process, because these institutions are going to support the wounded Armenian and all those affected by the war recover and revive. And so now more than ever is whenever the U.S. can directly support through aid these institutions that probably need to be bigger. They need to be able to accommodate more people that have been affected by the war and so forth.
I think you put it in the best words. Armenian Americans are your age, very young professionals, going to Armenia and Artsakh and working on its revival. And this is extremely important. We here have a responsibility in the US to make sure that our government too works on the survival and the revival of Artsakh, of Armenia. Dickran, in the bigger picture, what needs to be done to ensure the safety and the security of both Artsakh and Armenia, of the Artsakh refugees, to finally return to their homes?
So first off, we need to make sure that the people of Artsakh feel safe in their own homeland. In order to do that, we need to build up the country through resources, through just generally speaking, we need to make Armenia a strong and a successful country, and Artsakh a successful state and country where people see a future, where people see hope, where people see success, and where people can see their children and their children's children living there. And in order to do that, even as Armenian Americans, we have a role to play, because we can get our members of Congress, we can call on our leadership to have a direct role, because the U.S. and Armenia and Artsakh do have relations. They have a history of having relations, and we need to capitalize. And we need to, as U.S. citizens, we need to make sure that we capitalize on any opportunity we have to support and aid Armenia and Artsakh. And I feel like that's the primary way as Armenian Americans. And the second would be that if you have the opportunity to make an impact on the ground, given whatever may be going on in your life, you should definitely take advantage of that too. And I highly recommend that.
Dickran, I really appreciate your time. The ANCA appreciates everything that you're doing on the ground in Stepanakert, in broader Artsakh, getting aid to refugees and hearing their stories, and sharing with us both what you've seen in terms of the humanitarian needs, in the security crisis that we're facing. Be safe. And as you said, for Armenian Americans out there, there's a encouragement for you to, if you haven't, try to help in every way that you can, whether it's going on the ground or directly outreaching, doing direct outreach to your members of Congress and encouraging this $250 million aid package. You can do that by going to anca.org/aid. That's anca.org/AID. Thank you, Dickran. Stay safe, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Tereza, and I'll see you soon.
Take care.